cultivating a community is one of the first steps that a project should take if they're going to be taken seriously. And every project, it's not built from the top down. It may start that way. As soon as there's something that's ready to use, you go from having a top down hierarchy to having a bottom up hierarchy. I think that one interesting way to look at it is the people leading your project shouldn't be only the people at the top. It should be the people at the bottom. What point do you realize that the power is no longer up here? The power is down here.
G-Move and
G-Move.
Waza G-Move to another episode on the Movecast today with a very, very special guest. It's Adei. Also, many people know him as Ethics, one of the very OGs on the movement ecosystem. Welcome, Adei. How are you feeling today?
It's been a long time coming. Yes, I'm feeling great. Very excited. I've been looking forward to this for a while. It's something we spoke about months ago, many months ago, when you first started this, and I love seeing this type of thing on Movement, a podcast. I mean, super important for any chain that wants to bring attention on social media or just engage with the people in the ecosystem. So really excited to hop on the Movecast.
I appreciate. Yeah, we are planning that for a long time, but as we will probably see in our talk today, you were also, and like all people, quite busy in the last weeks. But I'm
Well,
more
and
happy.
moving and traveling so much, it makes it very difficult. I didn't have a desk. I didn't have a place where I could sit and go on a podcast, and now I do, which is really exciting. So that's part of it as well.
Yeah, but I mean that's also one part which is kind of special to a career in Web3, right? You can travel wherever you are and work from remote. But I think that's
Definitely,
what we will
definitely. I
cover
mean,
later.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
for sure, for sure.
yeah. So I mean, most people are from the community know you already, but could you maybe give us a little introduction to your person? Like, who is Adei? How did he get, or how did you get into crypto? And what was your first interaction with the movement ecosystem?
The journey to the arrival of Ade is it's a few different hoops. It's ups and downs throughout the bull and bear market to get to this name. I mean, there's a whole series of events. It's very interesting. So when I started in crypto, I was thrown into the deep end, which I think is pretty common. I think anytime you start something new, the best way is just to dive in. So it was during probably one of the craziest periods of up and down in the market that we've seen, which was 2020 into 2021. So I was actually running an Airbnb at the time, and one of the guests they had this crazy computer setup. They had free monitors, they had charts, they had all kinds of things, YouTube videos going from crypto YouTubers, and I said, "What's this? What's this?" And so they introduced me to, and this is, I don't know if it was good or bad in hindsight. They introduced me to magic internet money, which was
Nice.
a term that people were really throwing around in the 2021 bull market. I mean, magic internet money. So I was curious. I was curious, and actually, what intrigued me the most wasn't the idea of profit or the magic money itself. It was the idea of this digital money that could really be the future of not only this industry but other industries as well that would be brought into crypto, which we're starting to see now. It's taken quite a while. There's a whole series of things that slowed that process down. Won't get into that, but that's when I started, and I went all in. I started buying Ethereum at the time. I think it was $1,800. It ran up, but the problem was I was doing so many transactions that I was spending so much gas. By the time the Ethereum went back down in price, I realized like half my Ethereum was gone. So that was a big lesson. And I
Yeah,
rode through
typical
the
story.
typical story. Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, that's quite common. So I rode the ups and downs, and eventually I realized that there was something I was missing. I was trading on centralized exchanges. There was definitely something I was missing with the core idea of cryptocurrency itself. And that's when I started to move all of my money on the actual chain. and I got into a ton of cool things: NFTs, airdrop farming, a lot of things that I really enjoyed, and also provided some kind of financial benefit at the same time, which was great because I was traveling. I wasn't necessarily working full time with any company, so that was very useful. That took me through until 2023. Until the end of 2023, I was doing a lot of stuff on Solana. And that's when I was searching for modular chains, actually, because something that was had a lot of hype at the time was Celestia. And so I thought, okay, well, this is fantastic. This is providing the accessibility for new chains to build on a modular infrastructure. And that's when I was searching on social media for new modular chains. I literally typed in new modular chains, and I was scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I see this big yellow logo, this big yellow logo on a black background, and of course, we all know that's Movement. That's when I joined Movement, and it led into the Parthenon, which led into me changing my name from Crypto Ethics to Ethicus Adamantis. And then from there, I shortened it to Adei, just because it's a lot simpler than Adamantis.
Yeah, nice, and also pretty interesting. You got into movement more from a like research side and like from the modular space, because I think many people on the movement are joining by airdrop farming. Um, so I don't know if that was the case for you as well, but yeah, it sounds a bit more from a more research side.
It was I think that's also what benefited me in the long run, and becoming a part of the movement ecosystem in my small way was that I came at the project from a research perspective. I mean, one of the first things I said was how can I get involved, because I actually loved what was being built. And I think that's probably when I met you, actually, as well. So I I started chatting with the people that were there, which was one of
Yeah,
them was you. Yeah, and it was more from a research side.
yeah, amazing. And I mean, that's in the end what it's all about in our community. We have different types of people coming from different perspectives and different backgrounds. So yeah, great to hear that.
That's exactly what
Um,
the Gorilla Move is about as well. That's why we all love it so much, is because it's this amazing group of people, and their sole purpose is to support the movement, which is an incredible community focused project. So it's really good balance. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's great. I mean, one led to the other. But what I would be interested in is, was there like a moment in which you realized you want to like double down on movement? Like, what made you stick to movement and not, go to another project from the modular space?
That's a really good question, and I would say that it wasn't just uh, another project in the modular space. I was doing activities on multiple chains at the time: Solana, Polygon, new chains that were coming out. And so when I started working with Movement, from a community perspective, it was inside the community program. That's what led to me doubling down, because they had this community program. It wasn't like any other one at the time. Since then, we've seen a lot of Zeely based or Galax based community programs. But at the time, there wasn't a program where no matter what skill you had, there was a way that you could really contribute to the community itself, whether it was creating stickers, emojis, helping out in the chat room to answer questions. That was relatively new. You had other projects that all they had was moderators. But what Movement built was a system where anyone in the community could be a lightweight moderator, in the sense of being able to help out and answer questions and be recognized for that. So that's one of the things that I started doing. And that led to me completing the Pathfinder section of the community program. And so the Pathfinders, it's all about getting involved in the community, different events, helping people out, answering questions, research. And once I'd finished the Pathfinder program, I kept I realized that I could double down and I could risk my time instead of risking my money. And this is something that I've said a few times. And it's one of the things that drives a community the most, is instead of having them risk their money as some kind of investment, or whatever you want to call it. They can risk their time inside the community program. And there may be something for that, there may not. At the time, there was no confirmed rewards, nothing like that. It was just community work. And so after I'd done that for a few weeks and interacted with the great moderators, one of them was Rye. I kept asking, look, I want to be, I wish to be a Pathfinder Pro, which is a lightweight moderator. And in May of 2024, that's a goal that I achieved, and that really started the snowball into my later work, which I'm doing now as a community lead for Lava Network. I learned a ton of things when I became a lightweight moderator at Movement. I learned from Merck, who's community lead at Movement, but he also does a ton of other stuff. He's not just a community lead. Yeah, yeah.
And that sounds actually quite straightforward. But have you been like involved in a community work already before, or was that something you just realized on your movement journey that that's something you really like to do, and or do you have some roots back in your history?
There's definitely it's definitely a combination of both. So when I first started doing on chain transactions, one of the first things I did was I joined NFT projects, and from the community side of things, I started rallying the community to help the project as a whole. So everyone in the community, I mean, of course, they were doing activities, but none of it was driven towards one goal. So I said, okay, look, let's all of us get on social media. Let's raid this other NFT collection. So I instructed everyone to go into the comments of another NFT collection, and that got attention from that NFT collection, and it came down, and the project went, oh, okay, that community member is really pushing for things. So leading the community from inside the community was the start of it, and that was a long while ago. Since then, I've I've been a community member in multiple different projects, which I think it's super important to either be a community member at one point in time before you start working in a community role like community manager or community lead, or think of yourself the entire time as a community member, no matter what you are, whether you're a community manager or a community lead. You should be a community member as well, because only then are you going to see what the community needs, what drives them. And so once I started being a moderator in Movement, I realized, okay, this community work is something I'm really interested in. And so that's essentially what led to me becoming the chief pathfinder at Movement as well, which I think we'll get into at some point.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we can also go here a little bit deeper. So you mentioned you already started in May being a Pathfinder Pro, which is like a light mod in that sense. But as we probably, or like most people know, you also turned to be like an exposed person, to say, in the Lava community, right? So maybe you can tell us a little bit how that connection happened, like getting from Pathfinder to a Lava community mod and lead in the end.
They both happened at a very similar time. They happened almost simultaneously. So in May is when I reached out to the previous community lead at Lava, and I said, I approached them from the perspective of an artist. So at the time, I was into creating Discord emojis, Discord stickers, graphics designs, and I reached out and I said, "Look, this server could definitely use some stickers and emojis and graphics designs." And I said, I'll create some. In fact, I created some before I approached them, which is it's a very good tip for anyone that's reaching out for a job. Is if you do a part of that job and you show them what you can do first in good faith, they're much more likely to receive you. So they saw these emojis and they said, "Look, we want you to create a whole mascot kit. It wasn't just emojis." So that's when I created the mascot kit for Lava. It happened towards the end of May and into April, which was the same time as I got this lightweight moderator, this Pathfinder role at Movement. And one led into the other. So as I started doing more stuff with Movement and learning from the fantastic people that were teaching me there, like Merk, Rai, Bufu, as I started learning from them, I started seeing that there was an opportunity to do that in Lava as well. So that's when I brought this ethos, these ideas, this ideology from movement over to Lava, where the community could really grow from there. And so I offered to become essentially a very lightweight community manager at Lava, giving out roles, seeing what the community wants, and creating events and challenges. So by around September, I become a full community manager at Lava as well.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a hint which I think already Torab gave as well in one of our episodes. That if you approach projects, it's always good to already have something created or done, which is like a proof of work to your skills and to your career so far.
Definitely,
But
and a proof of commitment as well.
yeah,
If you just reach out to someone for whatever incentive is there, there's always going to be some kind of incentive or some kind of reason for doing it. But if that's the only reason that you're reaching out to them, and you don't bring some kind of proof of work or proof of commitment to the table, something that shows you really care about the project itself in some way, then it's going to be much
yeah,
harder to get a good response from that person. And the opposite is true as well. You get a fantastic response if you bring that to the table.
yeah. Definitely, and I think that's the cool and interesting thing about crypto at all. Like, it doesn't matter which certification, what degree of school you have in the end. It only matters what you can contribute and create within an ecosystem or a community. And yeah, I think there are so many stories now which show you can do it and you can make it um, without any like special certification or anything. And
Definitely.
that's actually a great opportunity for a lot of people on the world, I think.
The
Um,
opportunities are there. And even if you don't have the skill itself, you can learn it. That's the amazing thing about our industry. At the same time, you can learn a new skill for a position you didn't even know existed in crypto. I mean, we have all these amazing positions that aren't in any
yeah,
other industry.
definitely, and I mean, same for me actually. I Before I started my podcast, I never ever edited a video before. Or I did like some um, picture editing, but never on a video side. But I mean, you have so many possibilities going on YouTube or any other platform to learn stuff online, and you can be completely free on doing that. And I think that's a great thing.
That's the best way to start as well. It's as beneficial to start something you don't know and learn how to do it as you do it. It's the best way to get something started, especially with something like a podcast. People think about starting a podcast so much, but how many people actually start it if they don't know how everything works? You just have to start, and
Yeah.
the amount of people that do that is relatively small, which is why it's amazing to see a movecast, a podcast for movement. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate. Yeah, and I think we had that topic already also with Coops at one episode that movement tries to give the community those railways to find your skills, to work on your skills, and to enjoy having your skills. And I think that's the great thing which we have on the movement community actually. Um, so
It's so
regarding
beneficial both ways. Both
yeah,
ways. It's one thing to be open to these ideas or these creations that the community brings. It's another thing to pave the road for them to do it. And that's what someone like Cooper and Merck do so well is they give you this runway that you can then bring your skill and create something for the project. It's just very beneficial all around.
and it's not only for the sake of doing the thing, but like also the way is which matters. So you enjoy and have fun doing this stuff. You have interaction with community and so on. So yeah, I think they do really great on that. um so yeah, once we talk already about community, I mean, since you are the pathfinder and community lead on Lava, what would you say? Why is community the backbone of a successful project? Which reasons you would see for that?
There's two ways, there's two perspectives that you can take on that. You can take the perspective of a community member and the perspective of someone who's leading the project or the founders of a project themselves. The reason is because every project, it's not built from the top down. It may start that way. You may start with two people or a group of people who create something, who build something on chain. They build an application. But as soon as you finish that process, as soon as there's something that's ready to use, you go from having a top down hierarchy to having a bottom up hierarchy. I think that one interesting way to look at it is the people leading your project shouldn't be only the people at the top. It should be the people at the bottom, because there's many more people at the bottom than there are at the top. If you've got two founders, five team members, a couple of moderators, but then you've got a community of 1,000 or 10,000 or 50,000 people, at what point do you realize that the power is no longer up here? The power is down here. And the key thing that every project needs to do is empower these people to support the whole project the entire way up. Because if you've got a group of people who feel supported by the people up here, that support, it goes from the top all the way down to the bottom. And if these people feel supported, they're gonna reciprocate that support, and they're going to support all the way up. And the reach that the community has versus the reach that only a couple of people have, it's an incredible difference. If you've got 50,000 people putting out a tweet about one of the events that you're doing, it's going to get so much more traction than if you just have one or a group of people. And so everything that a project does, everything a project puts out, my question is, who supports that? Because if you don't have a community that's supporting the things that you put out, the tweets, the events, or the new things that you build for your project, the new feature on the application, we're in an industry where we have almost more chains, more applications than we do people. And when you have that, the people become incredibly valuable, because who else is going to support what you build? And so cultivating a community is one of the first steps that a project should take if they're going to be taken seriously in the cryptocurrency industry. It's a little bit different for Web2 projects because you have a lot more users.
Yeah, I think you already mentioned one very important word, which is cultivate. Um, I think that's something what's probably one of the most important things when you have a community and build on a community. So, what would you say? Um, how can you cultivate or build a positive sentiment around your project in regard of a community?
Yeah. I should also clarify the definition of a community, because a lot of people have very different definitions of community. Some people would say, for example, that I don't know anyone that would say this, but I have seen posts on social media where they say airdrop farmers aren't your community members, the users aren't your community members. And I would say that anyone that's involved in your project should be considered a community member, because that's when you're going to get the maximum amount of people driving the project forward at one point in time. So when it comes to how do you cultivate that and how do you create a positive sentiment, the positive sentiment comes later. It's a little bit like applying for a job and chasing for the money straight away versus bringing something to the table that's valuable and then realizing that the money is going to come after that. It's the same. It's the same with a community. When you aim for positive sentiment as the first thing, it's not something that you can force. It's something that comes naturally. So the first step is to cultivate an environment where people are comfortable contributing in their own way, and that's very important as well. And that's why a lot of community programs, for example, huge community programs where you've got a million people doing your test net, is it really a community program unless those people are also involved and contributing inside the project in a way that they feel comfortable doing. And that's exactly what movement did. Is there was an opportunity for everyone to contribute in their own way, and it was a situation where you could do a certain amount and be recognized for that. You weren't forced to do everything. So it's building the system where people can contribute using their skill set in their own way and feel comfortable doing that. Once one person sees another person contributing, it continues to grow. They'll bring someone else in and they'll start contributing in their own way. But if you don't have a system where anyone can contribute with their skill set, they either have to learn a new skill, which is an immediate blocker because only 50% of people are going to do that, or they just won't do it. So giving them that opportunity to contribute.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I understand. So, you need to kind of involve the community. You need to engage them or enable them better, maybe, but better than engage. Um, but are there any, like, I don't know, strategies, programs, or tools maybe, which don't go only in this direction of engaging a community, but also in make them grow? Or would you say one leads to the other? Like, if
It depends on where
because
you
you're
start. It depends on where you start from. So if you have absolutely no one, you don't have a single person, then there's no one to engage. There's no point in even trying to engage if there's no one there. So what you have to do is you have to create an environment that's going to attract people. That varies based on what stage the project is in. If you've got a pre-TGE project that just raised funding and they've put out two announcements, is their first announcement, it's going to be very easy for that project to attract more people because of speculation. And so even if you have zero people, for a project like that's pre-TGE, I would recommend building a community program that focuses on real people rather than numbers. So whether that's creating a role system where you can recognize people for what they contribute, but the main thing is putting someone who understands community in a position to grow the community, or learning to understand community yourself. And once you do, you realize that you can build any number of systems, whether it's a Zealy program that has people contribute artwork. You've got to consider what the project needs. If the project really needs people to be creating content, then what you would do is you would create a program where you either teach people to create content, or if there's people that are already contributing content, then you find a way to recognize them for that, whether it's competitions, whether it's giving them roles. The community program will vary from project to project, but I would recommend building a program from scratch that is going to engage the people in a way that's going to support your project. You can do that on any platform, on Zealy, on Galps, but you've really got to consider how real people want to contribute. That's going to be easier for a pre-TGE project. For a post-TGE project, you have to find a way to teach people to believe in your project. That's an awareness and education thing. If you can put out announcements in a certain way, if you can put out content in a format that is going to resonate with people, you teach people about your project and you believe in your project yourself. That's how I would start building a community for a post TGE project, because it's much harder. You don't have that airdrop speculation. You've really got to cultivate real people, and that's what I did at Lava. And it happened in a few different ways, but ultimately what worked incredibly well was balancing incentives with real people. So in the end, I didn't use a platform like Zealy or Galps for the community program. It's all manual review, so it's either myself reviewing what people submit, or it's the fantastic moderators that we have reviewing what people submit, creating events. And eventually, if you create an environment where everyone is welcome, eventually it's
yeah,
going to grow. It took a few months, but it grew.
right. Yeah, great insights. Actually, I think not many people are maybe down, or they don't know how the structures behind setting up a community look like. So I think that's great insights you share with us here.
Well, to jump onto that, the structure, I would break it down in terms of what the community needs and what the project needs. So if you're building from scratch, what you do is you take a Notion document, or whatever platform you prefer, Google Docs. You break down what the project needs, and then you break down what the community needs. The community may need different things. They may need incentives. They may need support. They may simply need you to teach them how to make better content. That was something that I did at one point. I got hands on and I taught them how to make better content. So you do categories: what the project needs, what the community needs. Then you break down the community into further categories. This is something you do privately. You never want to let anyone know that there are any kind of categories because it's just gonna silo people. But you break them down into content creators, artists, people that help out in the chat room, people that I don't know, go on social media and make videos, whatever category you think is going to support what the project needs. So that's why you have two categories. Once you have those two categories, you can build a program where people start at the bottom. They're just entry level new community members. And once they fit into one of these categories, once they contribute, then they rise up in the structure. And that structure has to be uh, it has to be infinite. So it has to be to the point where if they reach the top, that's an opportunity for you to actually bring them into the project itself. That's when you go from having a community member who's extremely dedicated to them becoming a team member in some kind of way, even if it's in a small way, which is exactly what Movement did with the Chiefs. When I was made chief, I went from being a community member to being not a team member, but similarly, I have that position where I can do things that a team member would do in some ways.
Yes, I understand. And I think you already dropped that word as well today, but which role do incentives play? Because I think that's in many cases, if you would ask people from the outside, like why would somebody do anything? So I think the best answer which you would get would be probably yeah, because they have any incentives, probably some financial ones. But which role do incentives play at all in this whole
In,
construct?
incentives is a term where if you say it, most people in crypto automatically think that that's money. And while it can be, it can also be other things as well. So without diving into what stage your project is in, because that's going to change the incentives, you can look at incentives as a broad category of ways to reward a community for their activity. And an incentive can be learning a new skill. For example, if you create if you're a fantastic content creator, you can create some kind of teaching program where you teach people to make better content. And that's going to increase their views on social media. That's going to increase their followers, which ultimately leads to a series of benefits, a career path, something that they wouldn't even expect. That doesn't just apply to content. If you're an artist in a community lead position, you can teach people to create art. That is an incentive. And what it comes down to is how important, how much does the project need a bigger community? The project has a relatively small community, but they're fantastic and they're contributing really well. Then you may not need to bring in financial incentives. You can use these other incentives. If you're a post TG project starting from zero, and you have no community, you're going to need some kind of incentive to attract those initial people. And that's exactly what we did at Lava. We put up a few million Lava tokens as an incentive for the community program. And what's happened is, I would say a good majority of the people that are here now, they're remaining here because they love Lava. In some way, they've forgotten about the incentive. It's still there, it's still coming, but the process where I've helped some people to create better content, or I've recognized them for skills that most projects wouldn't even recognize them for. For example, we've got a 3D designer who I think he works in the Navy. Forgive me if that's wrong. But he's a 3D designer and he creates 3D designs. They're really cool. I love to see them. And most projects would just brush over that. But that's a skill set that should be recognized in some way. And so that some of them, a good majority, are here because they love the project, and the incentive is just a benefit. So even if you start with a monetary incentive, the goal is to create an environment where these people become committed to the point where the incentive isn't the thing that matters the most.
would fully agree to that. And again, I think that's what the movement did quite brilliantly, and to give people the railways how they can, elaborate on their skills and make them and put them to work, and receiving not only financial rewards, but also, I don't know, increasing follower counts on the socials, just something like attention on artwork, which they probably would never have. So, for example, I was editing some pictures in my past, but I dropped at some point because I said, "Why am doing that at all? Like, I can do some stuff on Photoshop, then I will look on it for 2 minutes, and then I'm done, and then it goes down in any folder, which I probably would never open again." But with that new connections you get through community, you get a new type of attention, a new type of yeah, social rewards, if you can call it like that. And I think that's yeah, as you said, a great incentive as well, besides of financial ones.
Definitely. That's one of the end goals is where you have the community recognizing each other and promoting each other, pushing each other forward. Once you complete everything I've said, whether it's building a program or recognizing people that are contributing artwork, once you complete that, the goal is to have the community doing those things themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one topic which you also already mentioned in one of your sentences is, you need to be able to do good announcements, and um, yeah, have a good type of talking probably. So I would be interested in what would you suggest in type of managing expectations and like people keep their engagement high? Like, is there's something you need to look on when managing expectations? And yeah, what would you say regarding that?
Managing expectations is it's what gets a lot of people stuck in tricky situations. Is something I've considered very very heavily as well. And what I would say is that when you put out an announcement, or when you start a new program, it's always better to start slow than it is to come out of the gate with a ton of hype and a ton of expectations. And the reason is because when you have a slow build up from something that's relatively small into something that's massive, as long as you ramp up, then there's no sharp drop in expectations. And as long as you're able to deliver, if you come out of the gate and you say this is the most amazing thing that's ever been produced in the entire cryptocurrency industry and you have to join right now, and I'm going to make everyone rich, if you come out and say that, the expectations go really high, and then they're going to drop down very quickly. The other thing that I would say is timing is so important. And if you announce something too early, then what happens is, especially in our industry, people get really excited really quickly, depending on what it is. And then if what you're delivering is in a couple of months, then the problem is that that excitement is going to die down and die down and die down. By the time you get to that announcement, the opposite happens. It's not too much expectation, it's too little expectation. And that's one of the tactics that I've tested, and I know it works because I used it for the Fox NFTs that we released from Lava. And I said to my superior at the time, I said, if we announce this a month or 2 months in advance, it's going to lose out on all of that initial hype. So what we did was we waited and we announced it 2 weeks in advance. Okay. And the expectations rose, but the benefit was we were able to deliver within 2 weeks. I mean, it was a ton of work to be able to deliver on time, but we were able to deliver on those expectations. The other thing that happened is, since it was such a short time frame, and this is a tactic that should be used but cautiously, since it was such a short period of time, everyone wanted to get involved very quickly. And I I told I'm laughing because I told my superior to put my name in the tweet. I say, if you want to collaborate, send a direct message to Adei Web3 on Twitter. And I woke up the next day, there were 500 direct messages, and it didn't slow down. I mean, they just kept going up more and more and more. But because it was a short time frame, we were able to deliver on those expectations. The lesson from that is when you announce a date, when you say that this is happening on this date, you have to consider how long before that date and if you're actually going to be able to deliver on that date. Because if you don't, then the expectations that people have on that date are going to result in a lot of unhappy people. And this is something that I've been told from people I work with is you really never want to announce a date until you're absolutely sure.
Yeah, I would agree on that, and I think there's nothing worse than yeah, as you said, announce something and not deliver on time. Um, yeah. So yeah, I think it's kind of crazy to see which insights you can already share with us. And I mean, you don't have to go back a long time. I mean, it's May of last year, which is maybe like 10 months for now. And it's crazy to see which way you already took and which skills and insights you could already gather in such a short time. Um, so maybe for our listeners here, which are maybe thinking about to get a career in Web3, um, what would you say? Which skills do you need to move up such a ladder and to get into such a position and into a journey as you did?
Both both of those things go together. They're incredibly close. So having the skills to climb up in some kind of career ladder isn't necessarily the way that you do it. The way you do it is you dive in and you learn the skills. So when I mentioned that I've been thrown into the deep end quite a few times, that's what's benefited me the most because I've taken on positions that I didn't technically know everything that was involved in that position, but I was confident that I would be able to learn the skills. And the reason that it's happened in such a short time is because I've been put into these deep ends in multiple places. And when I joined Lava, it was really a matter of learning the new skills that I had to learn them quickly in order to deliver on the community's expectations and my superiors' expectations. So being able to learn a new skill as you do it is probably one of the most important things for a career. The other thing is being able to reach out and either search for opportunities or dive onto the opportunities as they arrive. There are a lot of career opportunities in Web3. The difficult thing is going from being a community member or someone who's on the community side to being a team member and someone's on that's on the team side. And if that opportunity comes along, it doesn't matter if you don't have the skill to do it. Just take the opportunity and learn the skill afterwards. And if that opportunity doesn't come along, then you need to reach out and find those opportunities. And part of doing that is being able to commit time without a direct incentive or reward. For example, when I reached out to Lava, I had already created some of the emojis and the artwork, and I said I've done this, and what I wish for is to be hired in some capacity, and that worked. If you The other thing is to solve a problem. If you solve a problem for someone, then it greatly increases the chances of being useful or being hired by that person. So if you're really searching for a career and what I said doesn't apply, you can't find an opportunity or there's no opportunities coming along, then what you need to do is you need to find someone or a project that has a problem and you need to solve that problem for them. And once you do that, it's going to really increase your chances that you get some kind of position and start a career. And once that snowball starts, as long as you're willing to jump on any opportunity that comes your way, then you're going to rise up in the career ladder. So what happened was when I was community manager at Lava, first of all, I was doing more work than was actually required of me. I was doing that's something that I typically do is I really commit and I do a lot more work than I've actually been asked to do. And the result of that is eventually someone realizes, Hold on, this person is capable of doing more. And so they either put me into a new position, or what happened was the previous community lead had to move on from the project, and that opportunity, that position opened up, and I was there. I had already been doing a lot of the work that would be required. So being able to do more work than is asked of you, if you're in the right situation. If you have a good boss, if you have a friendly team to work with, that's definitely the way to go. If you have a less friendly team, then you may not want to do all of that extra work.
Yeah. And I would guess as well that once you get all those skills which you learn, you and I think you obviously did that. You also leveraged on them. So like you learned how to be involved in a community, leading in movement, and you leverage that out into your lava position. Also, I mean, probably stuff which you did on the gorilla movers. So I think it's a lot of connections between all those roles. Um, but I think that's maybe something maybe you didn't even realize on your own. I don't know, but if you look,
I definitely
or if I
did.
look from the outside, if I look from outside, I would say you definitely took your skill set which you received and put it on different projects into work. And I think that's the best thing you can do.
That's something that everyone should definitely do. It's something that we all do in some way, whether we're conscious of it or not. For example, when you've created the Movecast, you've leveraged the position that you had, which is fantastic, and I definitely recommend doing this inside the ecosystem, because you had a reputation, you had a positive reputation, and that's what helped you build this. In the same way that I had a positive reputation as chief pathfinder at Movement, and that's what helped the previous community lead at Lava understand that I can bring to the table the skill set that's needed. It also brings us back to one of the other things we mentioned, which was projects giving skills to their community. A lot of those skills were taught to me by Merck, or by Cooper, or by the mods at Movement. And once I'd learned those skills, I was able to leverage them to get a new position elsewhere, which it it's something that I feel like they would be happy that I've done, because that's the goal. That's the goal. The goal shouldn't be to trap someone somewhere. The goal should be to give them the skills that they need, and either bring them up the ladder where you are, or have them use that to climb the ladder elsewhere. And it's just a positive thing for whoever that person is to do. And as a community lead, as a team member at Lava, what I would be very happy to see is any of the community members that I've brought to where they are now leverage that to climb elsewhere. And it's always a situation where you can remain as a part of where you originally were. So I'm always going to remain a part of movement, because it's the environment that I was taught in, it's the environment I grew up in, and any way that I can contribute when I have time, I'm going to.
Amazing. Yeah. Um, you already mentioned you will remember the time um, how you started on the movement. Do you have something maybe like a personal highlight from the last year on the movement? Is there something you would say that was like I don't know, highlight, a special turning point in your career?
Yeah, I would definitely. There's, I'd say, two or three main highlights. One of them is definitely joining the Gorilla Movers, the NFT collection. It's from that was really a turning point. And that was also a situation where there was an opportunity, and I dived onto it. So when the Gorillas started creating their core team, it was very early stages. I think there was 20 of us in the server at the time. Now there are thousands. It's incredible. There was a very small group of people, and they were saying, okay, well, look, the goal is to support movement. And at the time, I was getting involved in the community program. I was becoming a Pathfinder Pro mod, which I think, by the way, the leader of Gorillas may have had a bit of a hand in me becoming that Pathfinder Pro mod. Maybe gave me a good reference or something. So shout out to Leon. But they said, okay, we've got these 5 people, and I wasn't one of them. I think maybe it was 4 or 5 people, and I wasn't one of them. And they said, we're going to make this the team. And I said, I'm in. Make me. Make me an alpha. That was the term, an alpha for the team at Gorillas. I mean, I didn't give them an option. I just said I'm doing it, and
Yeah,
that's
actually,
one of those things. Yeah, and
yeah,
that was
actually,
definitely a
I
turning point.
yeah, actually, I remember still that time, and we had it in one of the AMAs last days with the gorillas on the movement. Um, Basically, it was there was no one who said you do it and you do it and that's the role you get, but it was like a proactive way of each of us, and you were obviously one of the very proactive ones, and you just took your role and you just did what you thought you can do, or at least you tried. Maybe you didn't think before you could do it, but you just did, and that's in the end what led you, I think, to go the way which you did.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a fond memory and something I cherish is helping to grow the gorilla community in my way. There was a period of time where I was doing announcements and running events. We did the Gorillathon where every week there would be some kind of event or challenge, and that was such a fun period. And that all became because, well, first of all, it was such a welcoming environment where anyone could contribute in their own way, and they still have that. There is no system at Gorilla Movers where we really tell people to do things. People still just do it themselves. That's an environment that I definitely want to create with the lava foxes NFTs as well, and we're moving towards that. And when we do the announcements and the things that are coming for the lava foxes, I'm hoping to get to that point. But it's also incredibly difficult to replicate because with the gorillas it happens so naturally, happens so naturally. And I think that spark will come. That spark will come.
I would say. I mean, you can't always copy stuff, but you can try at least to, if you know the railways which make things happen, you can try to reproduce, but yeah, you always will have like different new details which showing up, different new people, different new time, maybe even different market timing. You don't know. Um, so yeah, and yeah, besides that, I think you also mentioned two other points in the last year.
Yeah, definitely. So uh, the other one would be being promoted to Pathfinder Pro Mod, but that was sort of the preface. So I would consider one of the other 2 points to be becoming the chief Pathfinder at Movement, which is definitely something that I'd love to talk about because it was a turning point in so many ways. Marcus Aurelius reached out and said that there's this position. He described what the position was. It was leading the Pathfinder Guild, and immediately I thought, okay, this is the next step. This is fantastic. And the turning point was getting together with the other chief, Jules, who's incredible. He actually had the idea itself to create an academy where we take the skills that were taught to us by the people at Movement and teach them to other people. And we've done 2 groups so far, 20 groups each one. And the Pathfinders Academy, we've taught these people the skills that were taught to us. That was a turning point because it made me realize that no matter what situation I'm in, there's always going to be something that I can offer the people below me or the people that are a part of the community. I would say horizontally, not below me, which is what gave me the idea to create a content program at Lava where I taught people how to make content. It's the whole idea behind an incentive not being just financial. And that was a turning point as well. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah,
The
you
third,
did a
yeah,
yeah, I think you did a great job on the academy thing. And actually, if you look into different movement projects now, you will see a bunch of guys who finished your
the cadets,
certificates. Yeah, right. The certification
incredible
of
people,
Pathfinders. Yeah,
incredible people, incredible community members that they really just they've shown so much initiative in completing the courses and being interested in them.
yeah.
Yeah,
And actually, I already thought about even being a chief on the creator side to do once your Pathfinder Academy, because I think it's so promising and so giving so much new details and insights. So definitely looking
I
to join one of
I
your
would
next
love to
cohorts.
see it. Yes. Well, I would love to see that, and also I would love to see your skills being taught as well. There's a lot of opportunity there with the guilds. I've just been so tied up recently with a lot of different things going on. As soon as I became community lead at Lava, there were so many things thrown onto my plate that I had no idea they even existed. It makes me really look up to people like Merck, that they show no change in their approach. It's consistent, and to be consistent when you have so many things flying at you from different directions is incredible. So that was the third turning point, is when I became community lead at Lava, and I realized, okay, there's still a lot to learn, which by now I've definitely learned. I feel very confident and very calm in my position as community lead, but it took a few weeks of a ton of new things flying at me, and the turning point was realizing that I could learn almost any new skill. I feel much more confident than I used to. Being thrown into the deep end and then coming out on top is definitely something. And I have to say thank you to the amazing Lava community that supported me the whole time. I couldn't have done it without their support for me as someone who went from being a Lava community member to a Lava team member. They've been supporting the entire time.
Amazing. Yeah, great turning points you experienced. I think we have a lot of those stories in the movement ecosystem. Um, of course, with the Movecast, I try as much as possible to catch up those stories to inspire new community members, new joiners on the ecosystem. And yeah, with that, I think we had a really great talk today. Um,
What was the
Before we
turning
close
point?
out,
What was the turning point for you? If I could just jump in.
um, I think it's quite similar actually. So I think one big turning point for me was as well to be that much involved in the Gorilla Movers, as well to be at the very core at the beginning, and to have the feeling to really be able to create something. So not only from a art side. So in the beginning, I was doing a lot of those hilarious stickers and memes and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
remember.
and yeah, but at some point, I realized there's more to do than just creating some gifs and stickers, but it's more about the whole movement around the gorillas. But on the same time, there was this program on Zili, which was happening, and I kind of realized, all right, kind of it makes fun, or it's I enjoy to do all those quests because it's not just a random on-chain transaction or testnet transaction which I'm doing. And I think one of my biggest turning points to double down on movement was this Omni airdrop, which was happening I think somehow in April, which I missed
Yeah, that.
out at that point
Mm.
because it was kind of a
I think it was
window of
before. I think it was end of February, maybe May, early May.
uh, yeah,
Yeah,
that could be a.
yeah.
Uh, so at that point, yeah, I missed it out because I don't know, it was in the midnight and I was sleeping, and there was only a little
Oh,
time window in which you
yeah,
had to submit your wallets. But yeah, I saw that community was so much rewarded within a side airdrop kind of. So it was not a real airdrop movement airdrop one, and I came actually via airdrop farming to movement. So that was definitely one turning point to see, all right, here it's not only the Zeely part, which makes a lot of fun and makes me um, rediscover skills which I was having like 10 years ago. But there was also this like financial incentive, which happened like just by a side, more or less.
it's
And
totally unexpected.
yes, exactly.
That's when it's best
And
as well.
yeah, and actually this side airdrop was already from my perspective, much bigger than the most airdrops which I was getting or would getting from other chains, in which you just yeah airdrop farm some testnets. Maybe you remember the the $30 airdrop farmer meme, which we had
We yeah,
with
which we
this.
still have.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah. There's a meme. There's always going to be projects that come out, and the rewards that they distribute to the point where it's almost memeable.
Yeah,
Maybe in some countries it makes a difference, which is amazing. But for the average person, the $30 airdrop is a drop in the
yeah,
bucket, especially if you spend money to get that.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and besides that, yeah, one turning point definitely was for me also getting a Pathfinder Pro. I think around May as well, and
It was the
afterwards,
same time.
yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was, yeah, it must have been, yeah. And then kind of surprising, I was surprised to get this message by Merck, I think in June or somewhere, getting asked if I want to be the creator guild chief. And I remember I was telling him like, so I'm no like a professional designer or anything. And then he was just say like, yeah, but you're a natural one. And yeah, that was giving me so much appreciation. And yeah, I still
it's a great
remember that day.
example. I remember it too. It's a great example of someone contributing what's beyond the scope and being recognized for that, because you were contributing a lot more than was technically asked for at the time, and so it would have been quite simple to look at the group of people and go, okay, Zadam is one of those people. He should be in this role. It's a good example of that.
Good, good, yeah. And I think one of the last turning points was yeah, founding the Movecast, which happened around the EFCC happening last year in Brussels. So basically, the idea was just, you know, getting the community some insights from Brussels, because not everybody can travel over the world to Brussels. So the idea was just catch up some pictures, some videos, so people get an understanding what's happening over there. But yeah, with increased popularity and watching um, times, I decided, all right. Oh, actually, I decided there's like a gap for something like a podcast on the movement, both for the community side, but also from the project side. And I think that's what I had always back in my mind, because from airdrop farming I was already or I had the attention that good projects, if they survive, they have a strong community, and usually if they had a strong community, they always had a podcast, and it was somehow in my mind, back very back in my mind. And yeah, I just saw the situation happening, and if you would have asked me 2 weeks before I would have a podcast or anything, I would just said, "Man, you're crazy."
No, no way.
But
No,
yeah,
I'm never doing that. I'm never doing that. I mean,
yeah,
yeah. That's something you always think, and then it happens anyway. You think you're never going to do it,
exactly,
and then the opportunity's there.
exactly. And yeah, so I think that were my personal um, turning points and favorite points of the last year, my personal highlights. Um, yeah, I
Well,
really thank you for doing this today.
my pleasure.
Uh,
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on. I was going to say I look forward to future turning points. I'm sure there's more to come.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm very convinced about that, and yeah, with that, I would like to close the session today. If you have anything you want to share to the community, tell them that's your chance.
I would just say that I think in many ways across movement and lava, there's going to be exciting things to come. I've been put in this position, and I've learned from some of the greatest to ever do it. For example, Marcus Aurelius, Cooper, and I've got things planned that I'm really excited for. And if I had to hazard a guess, I would say that movement have things planned as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. There's going to be a lot of things to come for both those projects and the gorillas. Of course, that's something that I've been looking forward to for a long time. In fact, I don't think anyone's going to sell the NFT. I'm not. So
Yeah, me
it's going to
neither.
be it's going to
So
be really interesting to watch. I mean, everyone is so committed in the gorillas.
yeah,
So yeah.
Yes. So with that, thank you for showing up today, Adei, aka Ethics, Adei Manticus, OG on the movement, Pathfinder Guild Chief, and yeah, much more on the Lava ecosystem.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun. Cheers.
Yes. Gmove and Wassa Wassa.
Gmove. Gmagma.
Gmagma.